you're in the freshman mode, right? Okay, and do you have any idea of like, what do you love? Like when you see something done, you think, I'd really like to try that, or I'd like to make money doing that. Is there something specific that you have in your mind that you'd like to try, or?
Not really anything specific. Like, I'm actually a creative writing major, so like with stories that I write, I'm starting with something that I'm comfortable with that someone else made. So I'm trying the same thing with my art.
Very good.
I figure it would be good.
Okay.
So nothing particular.
Okay. And you? What's your name? Tell me your name, you guys. Sorry. I probably won't remember that. Corey? Tori. Okay.
Julia, I'm alumni.
Oh, nice. Okay.
So,
you guys don't know. I'm Gina Jane. And what is your art style and medium and?
whatever the client wants.
Okay. So you have clients. Okay.
So,
Very good.
but it's always good to learn more.
Yeah. Okay. And in the back. Bright colored back. I love the art on your backpack. By the way. It's great.
Hi, my name is Beth. And I usually draw my painting. You use a pen and use marker to color it. And I use another toy. It can connect with computer. I can draw with computer.
Yes.
A tablet. Oh yeah, a tablet. Yes.
And what do you want to do? Like your art, how would you like to see your art made into illustration for books or fabrics or cartoons? What is your goal for your art?
My goal.
Or what do you want to do with your art?
Like for business, is there work that you want to do with it in the future?
No.
Good.
I just want to practice and I want to go to Disney company.
Oh, very good. Okay, so an animator.
Yeah. I want
Very
to make
okay. Very good. Yeah. Okay, and front row.
I'm Braxton. Hello.
Hi, Braxton. I'm terrible. I know you names are familiar that it's gonna go right over my head, but it's okay. So you guys are taking notes, right? For things that matter to you. If it doesn't matter, you can watch this again and take notes.
Yeah, I wish I could find the notes that came from Emily's class when she did.
Oh yeah, last semester I did marketing.
Yeah.
Wherever they went.
Well, there's a few things I've learned that for me are working, and I've been throwing stuff out on Facebook to my artist friends because I have about 4,000 friends on Facebook, and about 3,000 of those are artists from all over the world, and a lot of them I don't know. I know probably 200 from the industry that I'm in, but I follow all kinds of artists, and I look at how they're marketing their art and follow what they're talking about. They'll talk about how things are going and what's not working and what just sold, and so I kind of watch that too. So I have friends who are in textiles and ceramics, and I have an artist friend in Japan who is painting in the old school way on the rice paper with the brushes and making money doing that with calendar work. So it just depends on what comes up in my feed and what I have time to read. So I do keep my eye on the market, and I really recommend that you have a Facebook where you can. I started mine the wrong way. I just put out myself, and I gathered all these friends, and then I created a Gina Jane Studios Facebook page and have about 400 people. And then I have my website page, which has about 2,500 on it, that I hardly ever use because it just hasn't been great marketing. It's so weird. I just don't get the following like I do on my own personal page. And I think it's because a lot of people like to know what's going on behind the scenes in your life.
Yeah.
If you want to know what else. But the marketing part of it with Facebook is really critical. You really, really want to start your brand right now and get a Pinterest following, get an Instagram, get Twitter, get your name as a domain name or whatever you're going to call your business, get that domain name. So I was going to put that up on the board and just say, these are some things that you really need to do. So as far as marketing, so you want, besides these things which are already up here, LinkedIn is quickly growing as the fastest business to business. So if you become an illustrator and you want to find a publisher, this is becoming the fastest way right now. It's the fastest growing way to connect and to get a lot of connections through LinkedIn, and they have really great classes. I signed up for their 1 month free to kind of dabble in and see what that would do for me, and it did open up a lot of classes that were valuable and opportunities that you don't see without the paid membership, but it is $30 a month. So I did it and kind of took notes and then set it aside. You've got to have a blog, and you want that to also be titled whatever name you want to go. So title it your own name. If you need another one for a business name, then you need to do 2 blogs.
I did have a quick question about naming things for you. I don't know, especially where you have like reps that are helping you out, are like, because some people they'll put like their name and then art. Other people will say illustration. Like, is there one like that would be more profitable or smarter to choose? I mean, art's smaller, so it's shorter.
It's small, and it also is memorable.
Yeah.
Then illustration might not be as memorable.
But you had mentioned one
right now is digital art. Okay, and so you might want to have this on your blog as a page, so it's on the title.
Okay. So there's kind of a section.
But as your title, you might, like what I did. I read a lot of books when I first started out. I'm going to divide that out over there, so if I put some in here. I decided to go with my name because I was already established with that. On my blog, it became Studios. And the reason I chose Studios was because I read all about Mary Engelbreit and how she decided that she was going to need help as her business grew, and she had little children. And eventually she had 65 artists, graphic designers, and staff in her studio. And then they branched out and did a variety of things. She had her illustrations for her books, and she had licensing work that she was doing. And so naming it something that you're moving toward makes it possible that on your blog now you can say licensing over here, and illustration, book, fine art. You know, this is messy, sorry. You would not know I was an artist, I believe. Terrible. Okay, so illustration, right? Fine art, licensing. If you have an agent, your agent would be here. That's what I've done with my agent is AMI Licensing. Art Makers International is my agent. And so you want to make sure that when you start with your blog that you bring traffic, you want to click in. So you want to put stuff on Facebook. So when you're doing your marketing, you're going to put stuff on LinkedIn, writing articles. This is really a great way to attract information, is just write an article or post new art. So artists that I know of, that I've known for years, like Lori Cook, she has done amazing things with Santa Claus work that was licensed heavily, and she made a lot of money. She's still doing paintings, she's doing portrait for pets and different types of things, and so she still puts articles on LinkedIn, she puts things on Facebook, and she links it to her blog, and then on her blog she has a store, so that could be another section along those tabs on the top of your blog. So you want to make sure that whatever your title is, people are going to know who you are, and then it says kind of generally what you're doing. So if all you ever want to do is just book illustration, you can't imagine yourself doing anything else. For one thing, you're really pigeonholing yourself. And I think it's dangerous to do that. I know a lot of illustrators who are just not making the money they used to make, and they're scared. And so I really would try and do all of these things. Try to do fine art. Try to do some illustration work for book, or sell them flat rate. Try to get into licensing. And then if you have a store, you can sell products that you self-publish. You can also do digital. Digital art downloads is huge. So is the competition. Competition is kicking my butt, to be honest. But I would get in it because 10 years from now, 75% of all retail sales is going to be happening online. It's just what's happening. So start today, because 10 years from now, one thing, we'll have a lot of following, and you'll be in the search engines, especially if you are doing this, what I would call the golden triangle. We always talk about But you want your Facebook, and you want your blog, okay? And then you want to have all the other little guys. I call them the little guys, like Twitter, okay, and Pinterest. A lot of people swear by Instagram, but I'm not finding this really productive for me yet. Some people, that's the only thing they do. They do Facebook, Instagram, and their blogs. So I would say start all of them and feed all of the same information to each one and double and triple post. But you want this to hit to here. You want them to all hit into each other so that you have links from here, here, and here to here. Does that make sense? When you post to Facebook, it's automatically going to post here. But make sure it all hits your blog, and make sure that this also, if you post anything, it's going to go on your blog. And if you've got something for sale in your store, you want to make sure your links are there and that they all work. The other thing that has really made me money was establishing a newsletter account, and I like MailChimp. I tried 3 different ones. So marketing would be, you want a newsletter, and you've got to have a way of capturing those that are coming from your, hopefully from your blog or your store. Have a way to have them check a box and say, I want news from you. They can always unsubscribe. I like MailChimp. It's SBS Learn is using MailChimp. So that would be my recommendation. Start super easy. They have really great support. And you can track where your the time frame that everyone's opening your newsletter. You can see what time of day, what time of the week, what's best for you. And it's free, so you don't have to lose money paying for paid services. And when you're starting, you just have no idea what you're doing. So I really like that. I've been with Constant Contact, and I can't remember the other one, it was so bad. But I was with Constant Contact for 10 years with my business, and paying them about $90 to $100 a month because I had a huge mailing list of 20,000 people. And I finally just cut out a lot of the subscribers because they just weren't opening my newsletter anymore, and I couldn't sort through them. The Constant Contact, I had no idea who wasn't clicking. I could just see that my stats had dropped. With MailChimp, it tells me exactly who's clicking and who's not. It rates my subscribers and says they're a 4-star subscriber or they're a 0-star. They have never opened your newsletter ever, and then you can cut them out and keep your account free because they let you do so many newsletters a month to so many subscribers. So for starters, this I highly recommend. What other questions do we have about marketing? I think one of the things that I was talking to Will about and a couple other friends is branding yourself. So there is a big no-no. I fell in this hole, and I have not crawled out of it yet. I became known for really cute clip art at a site with Probocraft. And it made me some good money, but I became known as Gina Jane. I put my name like this on everything, as the clip art person and not the fine art person. And so I would say reserve your name for fine art, just because that's just the classical way to do it. Reserve your name for fine art and use a fake name. You can call it anything else you want. There's like Blue Sky Studios or Puff Smoke or whatever you want to call it. Have another name for whimsical, cutesy stuff that's trending that you might not do forever in case in your old age you want to be known for fine art and you ever want to do any kind of gallery work or sell portraits or things like that that's high-end. You want your name to be associated with that, okay? And so make up a different name for something else. You can even you can do illustration for a book and use your name and do fine art. That's not a problem. A lot of artists have made that leap and they've done it successfully. But when it comes to something cutesy, like selling digital downloads of like scrapbook stuff or printable crafts or clip art, or something that you might not be very proud of later, test the water with, this is a brand in our studio. This new brand just came to our studio. You don't even have to say it's you, okay?
Well, could you go the other? Because I know like scrapbooking places, they like having the first name and the middle name as their thing. So could you do like G. Pemberton for your fine art, and would that fly, or are you totally pigeonholed?
Well, I have decided that if I ever do something with fine art, I will probably just do my name and
Okay.
just
I'm just
tough it
curious.
out. I mean, I'm still trying, but my love, the thing that I've always wanted to do is write and illustrate my own books. So GinaJane will work for that, and I'm slowly pushing my art to my agent that way, and changing what I'm doing a little bit so that that side of me, the less cutesy stuff, like you can look at the samples of work over here. All of this is my work, and all of it was a specific request by the manufacturer. They literally sent me a list and with a sample of an idea of the style and said, Gina, can you make us a really cute frog? And they sent me this cute little cartoon frog. I did my own. Theirs was like a little hopping frog. And, and I wanted mine on a lily pad. And so I did this, and they had me change the background 3 times so they liked it. This, I submitted my own drawings of ladybugs, only to find out that another artist friend of mine had copied my ladybugs from my website 10 years ago. And they were on a flag with my ladybugs on it. So when I sent mine, they said, Gina, you're ripping off another artist. And I thought, no, I'm not. That's my work. So I sent them a link to my website, and I showed them when it was, I could do a screenshot. This product was uploaded to your website on, 2011 or whatever. Anyway, so I just redid it. I made all new ladybugs, and I just let it roll. And they were really happy with it. The other ones were all these leaves everywhere. I did the sky. So while I'm right here talking about this, as an illustrator, I have built a massive library of individual icons. And so one ladybug, in fact, this part of the ladybug, the body is one piece. The wings are a different piece on all of this. Then all the little dots are a separate layer too. So I can change whatever the pattern is on top of my wings to something else later. So if somebody wants something striped, or they want a plaid, or they want Valentine hearts, or 4th of July, ladybugs are hot for this industry. So I got smarter than the problem a long time ago by keeping all my elements separate. These leaves were all acrylic, painted on watercolor paper. This is a watercolor sky from an outdoor landscape I painted when I was in Colorado one day. And so I just scanned my stuff really, really high, and I've saved it. And so this came from clip art from Probocraft, and so did this. This is the new drawing I did digitally. These were painted with acrylic, and so were the leaves. At the same time I painted these leaves, I painted these leaves. This was a watercolor that I outlined with a stroke in Photoshop. I scribbled this little border real fast and did the plaid, just checkerboard. And so when I was all done with this, every single part of this could be moved. And it was a good thing, because when they submitted it to the senior creative director, she shot it down and said, change it again. And then she shot it down again. And she's like, move the ladybugs again. I moved them all. I moved their shadows. I changed the lighting. I spread the leaves out. I took more leaves out. I had all these little flower patterns up in here. She said, put it to the bottom. She called all the shots. Now, if I had painted this as a painting and submitted it, game over. What happened, because I did this flag first, and then they said, can you do a frog one? And I did this, and the same story. You want to change that? Can you scoot these closer? I have all these cute little other frogs. Just one great big frog in the middle. These types of illustrations work really well for fabric panels. They work great for flags. They work really great for decals, for bedrooms, for murals. They work great for stickers. They work great for greeting cards. And so I have established a library where I can now move this frog, put it on a different background, and whatever I want to do. It's all movable. This was an entirely different product, as you can tell. I went to Michael's and scanned a roll of their burlap. Hi. good to see you.
Good to see you.
So I scanned the burlap, like I was telling another student, Tori, right? Yay, gold star right there. So in the print lab, you can take anything and put it on their scanner. I own the same scanner they have in that. It was one of the first things I invested in. And so I scanned the burlap, and then I changed colors on that burlap, and I made myself sheets of different colors of burlap. And then I drew my drawing, and I cut out with the cutout tool in Photoshop, and I made all these things, all the different parts of it, and my barn star, everything. And I made them pretty big. 12 by 12 is about the size that you want to do to make sure that your art can be sized up for fabric, because this prints at 150 DPI. So if my barn star is at 300 DPI at 12 by 12, when I drop it into 150 DPI layer, no problem. It prints just fine.
You're saying 12 by 12 inches?
12 by 12 inches.
Okay.
Yeah, so 3600 by 3600 pixels at 300 DPI. That's about 12 by 12. So all of this is Photoshop work. You can do this with a tablet. You can do it with Photoshop Elements. You don't have to start with, Creative Suite. You can just jump in with your little tablet. You can borrow one from the print lab. You can use their scanner. So burlap is huge, very popular. I literally photographed a wreath I had, this grapevine wreath, and I recolored it. I had to clean up a lot of crud in it and simplify it, and I had to add this. This is all hand drawn, this little berry thing around the edge. And then I made all my barn stars and put those in. And so I was really actually surprised that they took it, because when it was done, I just thought it was kind of blah. And they actually enlarged the star. My star was smaller in the window, and they just took it off the edge. So the creative directors will do a lot with your work too. Sometimes they'll really oversaturate something, and you just have to keep breathing when you see it and just say, fine, that's the way they're going to do it. Art, knowing your art and organizing it. I've talked about this in other classes. That's your first thing, is what's my style, and what industry does this fit? So for those who were talking about black and white line art, I fell into art licensing when my youngest was, not my youngest wasn't born yet, but my youngest was about 2.5, 3 years old. And he saw a rubber stamp in the store, and we were kind of getting into the rubber stamping craze, and he says, Mom, I want you to put your art on rubber stamps, and please buy that stamp. And I thought, no, I don't want to buy it. But I did, and I went home and started looking at it, and I thought, I'm going to call this company and see if they need an artist. This is before we had internet. So I got on the phone and called information, got a hold of this company, and they did want art. So I had a fax machine, I had a casserole dish with Christmas lights, I had a card table, and a plastic chair. And that was my first studio. So I started drawing on vellum and doing my sketches and laying them on the casserole dish with the Christmas lights on underneath, the little white twinkle lights, and drawing with a Sharpie marker and big drawings, and then they would shrink them down, and they made them into rubber stamps. And so after I'd done that for about a year, I was at Michael's, and I thought, I need a bigger market. This is not paying me very well. The royalties were not very good for the amount of time that I was working. So I went shopping, and this is where every artist, this is the number one thing you have to do. If you want your art on products, you have to go shopping, and you have to go shopping a lot. And guess what? It's tax deductible. So keep your receipts, keep track of where you went, write it on there. I was trend casting today. I'm doing trend forecasting. I'm shopping, I'm looking at what's for sale, and I'm gonna go home and I'm gonna do something similar or better. Or what's missing that I already know is trending right now. Chances are 1,000 other artists are making art too and submitting it to those companies. So in order to get in, I had to get smarter than that. I didn't want to compete with the really big company and all their already older, more mature artists that they relied on and knew that they could count on. So I went after the little company that had a couple stamps at Michael's. And I did a little research on them. I looked at what they had online, and then actually I didn't know what they had online. I actually got their catalog in the mail. I ordered it, so like Stamp Pendus and a few other, Inkadinkadoo was another, and I got their catalogs to see what they had, and then I started creating more and more art and made my own body of work. And then I saw some stamps one day at Michael's from a new company called Commotion out of Tucson, and I did that. Go home, pick up the phone, call 411 Connect. They put me through to Vesta Abel, the owner, and I just said, hey, I'm an artist, and I'm wondering if you're looking for an artist. And she says, can you fax me some sketches? And I said, yeah. So I faxed, in fact, I think I sent her like 25. And she called me right back, and she said, yes, I want you. I need 50 designs. Can you get me these categories? And so I never met her. It was probably 2 years later that I visited her in her studio in Tucson. And by then, I'd made $22,000 in royalties on 15 drawings. She presented 50 of my pieces by printing them out on vinyl, clear vinyl, sticker stuff. Put them on the block. There was no rubber on the back. They hadn't manufactured anything. And this is typical. A company will take your digital drawing that you email to them in low res, and they will mock it up and put it in their catalog as though it's done. Then they show it to the stores. The buyers for the stores have a meeting, and they present your art as though it was already manufactured on their product. And if the stores like it, they call you right up. Okay, I need the high res, I need it this day, and I need a license agreement with you. And so that's when the contracts start happening, and then you know that about a year from now you're going to get some royalties, maybe a flat fee. It depends on the company. Some rubber stamp companies pay a flat rate, and I wouldn't accept less than $75 for one drawing for 1 year. So you have to know that in the contract, they don't get to have that art forever. You limit the time, you set the price, and you name the art, and that's where you have to know your art, and you have to name it a number. I finally got an agent because I had too much art, and I was in school, and I didn't want to have to babysit that. And she goes to trade shows, and she lands me these deals. She landed this deal with Carson and several other flag companies. I work with about 9 different flag companies now. Some of them literally will email a month ahead of the deadline and say, does Gina have anything new? We want to see it first. And they want first rights, and they pay a $250 advance to reserve my art. And so they kind of get the sneak peek and show it to everybody before the other stores, the other manufacturers show it. And their royalties have been pretty good. Carson is kind of been hit and miss for me, but I really like their company, and I like that they sell more to the people who buy my style. So knowing the buyer is another really, really, really critical part of this. Is you got to know your art, but you also got to know who is buying it. Who is the buyer? Know who is buying, okay? You want to cater to your customer. I have product on my website. I cannot sell to people that are between 18 and 35 years old, rarely, okay? They look at it and it's old grandma stuff. It fits the grandma sitting at home. She goes to Lowe's, and I'm a grandmother. I have 8 grandchildren, okay? I'm 53. So they love this stuff. They go to Lowe's, they get their little spade, they get a couple tulip bulbs, they get some, their next yard art. They're filling the whole yard with art. My flags, I've got to have a flag and a matching mat and a door, all the stuff. It's got to be matching. And they buy it all. And so to me, this was like, I got to get in Lowe's. I've got old art. I know the market. I know that these women have money. People between the ages of 40 and 70 happen to have a lot of money. And they go and they buy this stuff. And so even though I was like, this is not what I wanted to do with my life. I wanted to be, in galleries, and I wanted, to get all dressed up in a little black dress, an opening night and all that stuff. That doesn't happen. My art, I have no idea when it goes to the store. Today, I walked out of the door thinking everything I own is in boxes. I don't have any samples. I don't know where my portfolio is. I almost tripped over this box. So here's my opening night. Ta-da! And my little black dress. But I know they took it all. The stores took it all. These are the pieces that went out of the, I think there was 10 that I did. They sent me a sample that's in the contract. Their designers actually figured out where they were going to put glitter on this one particular flag. They did it on both sides. It's super cute. I didn't have to do that for them as a vector. So some companies like Fabric, I have to lay out the designs in vectors, and it's watercolor. I just bring it into Illustrator, and I'll arrange my flowers, and then I use Pattern Maker. I just make it into a group, and I hit Pattern Maker, and it makes a pattern, and I move it all around, and I change widths, and I can drag a leaf over there or whatever I need to do until I like my pattern for my fabric. And they love it. And I'll tell you why, as an illustrator, you have a way to get into these big fabric companies and stuff like that because they have in-house designers, graphic designers, all of them do, that are making their dots and their stripes and their simple plaids and their little zigzag, and all of that's getting done in-house. But they don't have art, fine art, which is sort of what this is, watercolor stuff. So when you present them with something that's painted and it looks sort of photoreal, or it can be very whimsy, it has a buyer. If you painted really beautiful botanical florals that were very retro, something that looked like, the vintage Victorian is really hot right now. If you can paint that style, you have a market out there that graphic designers coming into that, they're usually junior designers that have been out of college 3 or 4 years, and they're just arranging art and making patterns. But if you can create hand-painted things, then they're going to license with you. They can't afford you in-house, and they can't use you. But what they will do is they'll take your work and they'll put it in with their pattern line. So, for example, if I just sent a huge set of fabric to a company, and mine had yellow stuff, they're like, we're not going to, print anything that you did in yellow. We had way too much yellow. It's not a popular color. But we can see that this little lace design you did, that was white on the yellow, we want that one. Just send the white lace, and we'll put every color behind it. We'll license the lace part. All the other colors we've already got, and we're going to make sure that we tweak the colors to fit what you just did. And we'll show that, but don't think we're ripping you off. We just already have stripes. We already have checks. We've already got dots. That's cake. They're not going to license it. But I sent it and showed it mocked up as a quilt so they could visualize what I wanted. And then when they presented, which they're presenting it to Walmart right now, Walmart will say, oh, I get it. And then the manufacturer will say, please arrange it in a pleasing way at Walmart, which never happens. It just doesn't. Walmart's got their own deal. So people are in there like, and I get it. I've done quilting, so I understand that. But there's a lot of money to be made in that. And I know men who are really, really good at photorealistic animals and florals and birds who have been making big money, and they're licensing on dishware, they've got it on greeting cards, they've got it on flags, they've got it on fabric, they've got it on backpacks, they have gone into the sporting goods division, and their stuff is being sold, at the big sporting goods warehouses, because they also have gone into fashion and things for men. So the patterns that men like on different products are being manufactured with men's art more than women. So even though women are like, well, this is kind of a girly thing, there's a lot to be said for other types of products. So one of the other things I wanted to talk about, does anybody have any questions before I jump to a different topic? I know what it was, because we were going to talk about this company and then what happened with this company. Not the company. It's not the company at all. Their creative director who worked with me and saw that I could overnight knock out these other flags for Easter. She left the company and she started a dishware company with a friend. And the friend was working as the senior creative director for a very large, prestigious dishware company. And she and this creative director from the flag company got together. And I got contacted and said, we want you, you're going to make us a lot of money, you're going to make a lot of money. And they gave me a spreadsheet. And I just thought, great. And she says, we're going to pay you by the hour to mock up all of these dishware lines. And we know you can do Illustrator, so clean up all of our templates and start throwing your art. And she discovered my website. She's like, you have art, like a ton of art. You know how to change colors. You can change a style in 5 minutes. And it's only because I've been doing this a long time. So I jumped right in. No contracts up front, just a phone call. And I knocked it out of the park. Like, this is awesome. They loved it. They showed it to the buyers. And the next thing I know, I sent them a bill. And they sent a payment back. It was like $300 out of $2,000. Well, we're not gonna like pay for all that because we don't have a buyer yet for those ones, but we have a buyer for this little one right here. What? And I says, well, you're getting buyers. She says, we're showing it. Can you work on the Christmas stuff, work on the Thanksgiving stuff, work on the birthday stuff? I trusted them. I worked with her for 2 years. Totally believing we're going to get a contract. We're going to get it right. Meanwhile, I'm sending them. What are you going to put in the contract? What's the negotiation? What's the rate? Is this going to be royalties? Are you paying me a flat fee for one dishware line? It's $1,500 flat fee, or you need to pay me 3% or 5%. The going rate for dishware is 7%. So I said, I'm willing to take less if you guys are a startup and you really are scared. And, you're just going to give me a little bit less. I'm good. We're golden. Let's go. I haven't seen any money yet. Nothing. This is going live, right? Okay. I got friends who will be like, I know who that person is. One of the junior creative director for this company stepped up and took that woman's job, and she doesn't have any idea that this just happened to me. She's going to freak when she finds out. Because that's really, to me, it's equivalent of rape. I hate to say that word. I have my own connotations to that, and I don't want to take away from what that's like, but I think that applies in a situation where you're hijacked on the road for your art, and you knocked out months of work and hours. I would send something to them, and I'd work 20 hours straight just cleaning up all their templates and making the first set of dishware and changing all the colors. And then that weekend, I painted all of their Thanksgiving line and promised that nobody else would touch it. No one's going to see it. It's brand new art just for you. I have nothing. Absolutely nothing. So when you consider that on one snowman painting, I made $10,000, and I just did all that for them and I have zero, pre-burned. And so there's a hard lesson to be learned that going into any deal, doesn't matter how well you know this person or where they came from before and whatever credentials they might have had, always be professional. Always be on top of it. Always get it in writing first. Because you don't want to be 2-3 months down the road and have nothing. And they're already showing it. So now I tell my agent about it. I says, this is what happened with this art. And she says, we can't show it. We can't show that art if it's being shown by that company right now, because it's going to look bad on us. It's going to look like we're double dipping. So we have to wait an entire year to show that art. Meanwhile, it's going to go out of style. That has to change. The color trends are changing right now from teals and navy blues into more purpley blue for certain seasons. It's a mess. So learn from other people's mistakes and watch lots of YouTube videos where artists like Will Terry is willing to talk about how to price your art. I was doing a search on LinkedIn on that subject, and there were a couple people that were posting articles, and every single one of these professional illustrators that have been around forever, like David Owens, said, if you want to know how to price your art, I can't tell you better than Will Terry, and he had a link. And we're talking about, this is an international following on LinkedIn. He named our Will Terry as the go-to person on how to price your art. So heads up, follow some of those videos that Will does. I think that they're right on target, and I wish I'd done it and not thought, oh, it's fine, we're girls, we can play nice in the sandbox. Wrong. I've been burned more by women in this business than by men. I have never had a bad experience with any male art director or manufacturer that was a man. I've been burned 3 times by women. So over the years. So I think women just have this attitude of, whatever, we'll get around to that. And I did it right. I mirrored that right back. Oh yeah, cool. So be aware of business practices where you get it in writing, you get it up front, you know the rates and fees for that type of art, you know how long it's going to take you to do it, and then you're not going to be burned in the end. So the other thing I wanted to talk about was 3 income streams. And talking with all of my friends, I've got friends who swear by getting in when they were young as illustrators for school types of textbooks and readers for children, they still have steady income no matter what the economy has done. They have always had work. So things like Hardcourt Brace and Scholastic and I think the other one, Penguin, there's several books. If you start looking at children's books, textbooks, there is still a very strong market. And I know friends that when they met in college and they were students, these different women got together and they taught each other the same style. And they could copy each other's work. And they went in together as a team, as a studio, and presented themselves as a studio team. And they are still filling in for each other. Some people will get a really great commission and they'll say, girls, I gotta come back to this. Who can jump in? And I've got a free space, and they keep that client happy, and they keep track of their hours and what they've done, and they pay each other, and they've got an accountant that stayed with them through the years, and it's all the money goes to the accountant, or you can have it all go to an agent, and that money gets spread around. I would highly, highly recommend trying to get right out of the gate some way that you're into education as an illustrator. The other one is medical. So as things go more digital and online, and there's going to be more interactive videos and things like that, there's another, if you're very realistic and you can draw, you can get into the medical. There's always going to be money there. So things that come and go are trends. So when people like this, there's a major, huge disaster that happened last year in the area where everybody paints scorch flags. Hurricane after hurricane after hurricane on all the coastlines where people fly flags year round. It killed the industry temporarily. And so they have massive amounts of product sitting in the warehouse. This year they're hardly taking any new stuff. So when you're in something that is not a necessity, you have to know that that is where you're going to have your income fall apart temporarily sometimes. You cannot count on all of this being your only income. You have got to have other ways to make money, and that's why I jumped kind of out of the Christmas product line and out of this stuff, and I really dove in hard into an everyday fabric line. And luckily I have enough experience, and they know that my work sells, that they just ate it up. I got an email from the owner of the company saying, Gina, we want you to do this, and we know you're new at some of the vector patterns. We like some of the samples you sent, but can you give us more samples of these vectors with butterflies and whatnot? And I figured out how to do it, and it took me days to get it uploaded. The files were too huge. So that could be another class for people who want to learn to do patterns and people who want to learn how to scan, is I can teach you that part of it. So 3 income streams. You want to start fine art now. If you feel like that's something that you want to do someday, get doing it. Put every fine art piece you've ever done in school on your blog. When you have something better, throw out the really crappy one. You don't want people to go through your blog and go, great, great, great. Ugh, what was that? Great. And you want the last piece they see to just be like, wow, amazing. I was just looking at Olivia's blog. I think it's outstanding. It's one of the better ones I've seen. Very simple, very clean. Still look at mine. Mine's garbage, okay? Hers is great. There was only one piece that I kind of flagged, and maybe other people thought, hey, that's fine, but I couldn't tell what it was. And when I looked at it a couple of times, I thought, oh, it's a beheaded, some kind of a bug or a robotic bug, and the head's gone and it's hanging down here. But at first and second and third glance, I did not know what that piece was. And to me, as an art director, from putting on the art director hat, that piece is too unknown to be on the front page. It could be in the black and white illustration, and it needs a title. You know, this is a sketch of this theme, and it's going in this type of book, so that people get it, and they look at it and don't think, she's presenting that as some of her very, very best work, when it really isn't her very, very, very best. And as students, sometimes we just don't know. We think, well, this is really great. It's a different style. I want them to know that I've got 2 or 3 styles. She's very, very smart in doing that. Marketing yourself with 2 or 3 different styles. I highly recommend 3. Black and white, get it done. When you learn how to do color decent, even if it's just a couple of colors, little hints of colors, get that on your blog. When you can really paint something very well, and it doesn't even have to be photoreal. It can be totally abstract. Get that on your blog. Get this thing building, get nice keywords, hashtag it, get it on Instagram, get it on Twitter, get it on your Facebook, cross-market it today. As soon as you got a piece that you feel like it's great, if you have to take a picture of it with your phone, do it. If you can get it on a scanner, even better, but get it out there and get it tagged. You can always replace the art on that page in that spot and not lose the link. The link, you don't want any broken links. So if you think, oh, that was kind of a really bad painting of a vintage truck or whatever it was, paint a new one and put it spam right there back in the very same spot so that you don't have any broken links. Broken links tell Google, you don't know what you're doing, what you did was crappy, and now you have a hole and a link that's broken. The more broken links you have, okay, if you have a broken link, your ratings go down in Google, okay? So if you have to replace a piece of art, name it similarly on the blog, but in the link, plug it right there and rename it something similar, okay? I've had to do that. I've learned the hard way on my website. I've been doing it 13 years. And broken links killed me. I had an analytics company coming to look at it, and they said, this is a sad, sad mess. So I've had to go back in and make a new product and stick it in there because links in from Pinterest bring me the most customers. And I have a lot of boards, and I name them keywords. So whatever I think people might be Googling or searching on Pinterest, I put it out there. So if it's butterfly clip art, butterfly graphics, kids butterflies, butterfly party ideas, same darn butterflies, every one of those boards. And it all links to my website, but the name of the board is what they're searching, right? Kids butterfly ideas or classroom butterfly printables. Same darn butterfly. Sorry, not a new butterfly. But that brings me customers, and they buy my stuff and they download it, and I make money. And it's $2 here and it's $5 there, and I've been doing it for 13 years. And so when I started it, I had 75 artists. And then about 2009, 2010, the economy kind of hit the skids. Artists didn't want to do it anymore. I let them all go. I taught myself how to do the whole website. And it still brings me in some good money. I abandoned it for 2 years, and it still made me $10,000 a year just sitting there. So I would recommend as another income stream, you can keep selling old art. And it can be really tacky. Some of mine is embarrassing. I actually lost job interviews once and said, well, you can look at my website. And they're like, no thanks, we don't want you. You don't know what you're doing, this is not a style. It's really old, but it's still making money. So I would suggest, if you go the digital art route, name it a name that isn't you. So mine's daisycompany.com. My big mistake is that my name is tagged in all of the product descriptions. So when people Google Gina Jane, guess what comes up first? Daisy Company. I will never break free of that. So be careful. Make up a fake name. You can use your sister's name or your dog's name or whatever it's going to be as the artist or whatever, or studios. And then you can say, I'm the founder of that company. But you don't have to say that's my art. Okay? So you can kind of not wear that crown the rest of your life. Do we have any more questions? Anything? Just... I want to talk one more second just about fine art, abstract art, or nudist, like nude. What's the word? It's not nudist. Nudes. Yes. Okay. It's really trending, okay, in prints and in gallery work. So if you decide that you want to go into fine art, I would really go in that direction and get that on your blog right now, because you could get an agent and get your work done in print. So I would look at Wayfair. Everybody that I know of that's like searching the industry and looking for trends right now is looking at Wayfair. It's a website that sells home decor and you know, just furniture and all kinds of stuff. They're on trend, and if you want to look at their prints and things like that, that'll give you a good idea for color. So you want to be able to know that whatever you're going to design has got to be the right colors for the trend that's happening right now. And I think wafers are really good. The other one I would recommend is Pottery Barn. Okay. And then I would also recommend, what's the other one? I'll think of it. But anyway, so you want to look at sites that are selling home decor and then get an idea. So what I would recommend too is when you start seeing ideas out there and you want to make your art fit that category, that product line, you've got to make what is called a trend board or color board. And so, are we out of time? We have like 2 minutes.
Yeah, we have like 2 minutes.
Okay, so make a trend board and make color swatches. Make a standard one that's got a bunch of color swatches like this and save it. Put your logo on one side of it and make a trend board like this. Your logo goes here. Here's your color swatches. Here is the title of your piece, or you can put your title of the piece here. So say you're gonna do springtime in the Rockies or whatever. You're gonna put your title, your name, and your contact information, including phone number and your mailing address. So email, here's the title, contact information, cell, address, email, okay, and your name, if it's not already in your logo. These color swatches can be changed out to whatever color you want. You make your board one time, and then you can bring it into Photoshop, Illustrator, whatever you need to do, and then you put pictures that you snagged from Pottery Barn or Wayfair or Pinterest. You put those pictures in here, and you start seeing trends like when zigzag, was in style. You have things like that, big florals, cars. I love my cars. It's like a hearse. Anyway, so whatever's going to be a part of this pattern line or cards or whatever you're going to make, put your picture, your reference photos go here. This is important. You want to know where you got your reference. You want to save this as a title, the title, and then you want the date. Make sure you get your date on here. The year is good enough. Do this always, and make sure you do it and put it in with the folders with your final pieces, because if anybody ever asks you if you copied somebody else's work, like the Ladybug scenario, guess what you have? You have established your process, the date you started it, the color scheme you chose, and your logo is on it. And when you send the art samples, you can drag this trend board and shrink it down and put it in as a layer on the flag or whatever you want to do. So when I send it, this is all the layers. I compress it, I send it in a zip file. I can put as a layer my trend board. And so they know that what my reference was and what I did. So how are we doing? Are we over and done?
Yeah, we're just about done.
Okay. Do we have any more questions? And am I helping anybody with ideas? Okay.
So you're talking about this specific diagram. It's more of something for you to be referencing. It's not.
Yes, but also for the manufacturer. For example, if there's ever a question when they're designing, like their designers are going to make a whole bunch of matching patterns. Mm-hmm. They can just pull this along to every designer that it goes to their computer.
Oh, okay, so they know exactly
and
which colors
like,
you
I know
use.
that's this purple, and this is a lighter blue or whatever.
Okay.
And that way, your colors don't get shifted as it goes along. And especially when it goes to China and they don't speak English, and maybe the person in charge of them does, but somebody on the operator is going to run this as CMYK, and they need to look at if
do you
they
label
can't
the
do
colors,
that.
or is it just a square with the color
It's
filled
just
in?
a square, and they can take the eyedropper tool. You got a little eyedropper tool, right? Mm-hmm. And it'll tell them what the number is, right? Mm-hmm. They might have to adjust this. Always work in CMYK. Always work in CMYK. You can save it as RGB later if you're going to go digital, okay? But they might have to substitute a Pantone colors and run that color by itself to achieve a certain color shade that you can't do with CMYK, because certain colors shift in CMYK and it's hard to get certain colors of blue, for example, and certain purples, and you want to make sure that they're going to have it look right when it's done. You don't want to have some weird combination that you weren't planning on, because then it doesn't sell. And so if you do this, you know what this says to anybody you're submitting your art to? This person's a professional. They know what they're doing. This isn't their first rodeo. When you've done this, you get in the door faster. And not only that, but you've protected yourself with copyright. You show them you're professional, and every single time you submit something, your layout's the same. You can change your logo and tweak your logo through the years. You can change your contact information, but if it's basically the same layout and it's you, it really establishes credibility. The one thing I didn't touch on was getting an agent. Maybe we can talk about that another time. But I have friends who couldn't get in the door anywhere, so they made themselves a different identity, and they called it such and so agency, and they got a P.O. box. I'm not kidding you. And they had their phone number go into a friend, and they would just a video or voice message, you've reached the studio of so-and-so representative, and it was just them. They represented their own work. And so they had to wear this hat, like, I'm the boss and I'm in charge of Gina Jane Studios, and here's the contract. Go ahead and sign it. And you know what? They don't take any more crap from people who are like, oh, it's just some person out there in the woods.
More professional.
You know, they're not going to pay them. They'll never tell anybody. That has helped some of the artists get established, is by having a fake agency with a fake Wix website with 5 pages and your art on it. I'm the agent for so-and-so. You know, and it's a done deal when somebody starts thinking, oh, well, they have an agent. If they have an agent, there's somebody, right? So it's kind of, it does a lot of credibility for you when you're starting out and you're an unknown. So I think that's about all I have for you. Okay.
All right, well, thank you very much.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
I like clapping for that.